Hello and welcome to my lab. As you can see, the enclosure's back up, which means it's time to dip another car. Or, well, it'll be the same car, except this time we're going to be using this Proline stuff, which is still Plastidip, but supposedly a better spray. I have actually played around with it a little bit, because as you can see by this empty can, and it does seem to be quite a bit nicer. We also have a new sprayer, which is also quite a bit nicer. So this should turn out quite well. Let's go take a look at the subject. Here it is. We'll mask it first, and then we can talk about the other stuff. Alright, now that the car is prepped and taped, we're ready to paint. But let's talk about the paint that we're going to do first. This Proline Plastidip stuff is a little bit different. It first of all needs a primer, so we're going to lay down 2 tack coats of primer, which just means we lay it on a little bit thinner. That allows the thicker coats to cling onto it. Then we'll do 2 regular coats of primer, and that prepares it for the matte black paint that we're going to put on. So we'll put 5 of those on, and then this actually needs a top coat to it. So there's a bunch of different top coats that you can use. We're going to use the frosted top coat, which has an additive that makes it more matte. So it's as matte as we can get with this. So that'll be interesting to see. But before we apply that top coat, what I'm actually going to do is put an emblem on here, right there. I've got some stencils and I'll use an airbrush, but we'll talk more about that when we get there. That's all of it, so let's just jump into it and start spraying. Okay, here we are with all the base coats laid down, and they've been given quite a bit of time to flash. Now we're going to work on the emblem here. This is it's going to be the emblem of the owner of the car. What I've done is I 3D printed a couple of stencils, even though that's basically 2D printing at that point. But it makes pretty good stencils. So we've just covered the area here, and we're going to, you'll see, it'll be a little bit easier to just see than to explain, but I'm going to lay down one coat at a time. We'll apply another stencil. They're all just going to fit right here in this spot, and each one will add a little bit more detail than the last until we're done. Then I'm going to and this is all before the top coat is down. So I'm going to put this on, and then I'm going to spritz a little top coat on it so that it's ready and can be top coated with the entire rest of the car. Then we'll be done. So let's just get into doing this little emblem thing. Here we are the next day. We left it overnight to cure and it looks great. So here you can see how well the finish turned out in general, but I'm also especially pleased with how this guy turned out. I had to lay down 2 tack coats to get the acrylic paints kind of ready to go for the solvents in the dip. If I sprayed just right over this guy right after I had airbrushed it, then the solvents in the dip would have actually kind of attacked the acrylics. So after I did that though, I did a heavy coat right over top of it and it all just worked. So I'm really pleased with that. There were a couple of issues with the paint job overall, which I'll show you. Here's the worst of the issues here. You can see here and down here a little bit, the water actually sprayed out of the gun. This happens because we don't yet have a drying system for the compressor, so you'll eventually, with all that compressing, you'll get just a wad of water that comes down the line and sprays out of the gun. Most of the time it's not too bad of an issue, but while I was spraying the hood on the last coat going along, it just sprayed an entire spewage right here, and so that's very unfortunate. That's really the worst thing that's happened here, and it looks really terrible. But hopefully at some point we'll get a dryer system. And here's the other issue that I had. This is one spot where it ran right here, my one main run. The lighting in our booth is not great, so I came back, I went across one way, and I didn't, usually you do a 50% coverage, you actually overlap your sprays 50%. Well, I did more than 50% on this one, because I couldn't see what I had done. So there's actually a little bit on the inside of the handle too, but there's a run here. But really other than that, the paint job turned out really nicely. So I'll just leave you with a walk around of the rest of the car. Thanks for watching and we'll see you next time.